The crybabies of college football have won again, and it's not great for the little guys.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Talking about the new college football playoff layout. Yes, they've been rumored with it. They have flirted with it. And now they have officially made a change to the college football playoff format after one season, and why that's going to hurt Baylor and some of the other little guys as well. Plus a truly tough story out of Provo and some big-time Big 12 football implications with the Jake Retzlaff situation. We'll keep you updated on what we have heard on that. Plus, does Baylor actually have two of the best rivalry football games in college football? We'll go over all that and more on this episode of Locked On Baylor. We start with the college football playoff. Now, we've talked a lot about the college football playoff and how it could be changing. In the last few weeks, we've talked about that, mostly with going to a 16 team and how that's going to look and who's going to get the auto bids and all that. But they did announce a change in the CFP just yesterday on Thursday that will go into effect for next season. 12-team college football playoff will move to a straight seeding model this fall, rewarding the selection committee's top four teams with the top four seeds and a first round bye, the CFP announced. That was from the 10 FBS commissioners, plus Pete Bavacqua, AD at Notre Dame, just gets his own spot up there. So that's how they decided to do it. No more conference champions as the top four seeds with the bye. Now, in a vacuum, I don't mind this. To me, it's fine in a vacuum. But we're not playing this in a vacuum. And I actually really liked how they had it in this past year, in the first year of the 12-team playoff. Because, look, it didn't give the Big 12 an extra team. You know, it didn't greatly help this conference. And our champion lost that first round game. They didn't win a playoff game. So this is not coming from the sense of like, oh, now the Big 12 is even more screwed. I mean, they might be, but we'll get to that in a second. I just think that's a good thing to incentivize, winning the conference championship and getting that top four. And to me, like you see it in pro sports as well. We see it big time in the NHL. If you guys follow the Stanley Cup playoffs, they go by divisions for the first two rounds. So, you know, the second best team in the East might be bounced in the second round year after year after year. And to me, the way this played out was perfect for college football, right? Like the home teams won on campus in the first round. And then the two conference champions that absolutely would not have been in the top four, Arizona State and Boise State, both lost their first game. So I just don't understand why the SEC and the Big Ten have just bitched and moaned for the last 4 months to get this result. Like, you guys got it. You got what you wanted. The better teams won. And now they're like, oh, no, well, those teams shouldn't have to play. Like, oh, we shouldn't even insult Penn State by giving them the opportunity to play SMU at a home game. They should have been in the top four anyway. Or insult Texas by having them play two-time national champion in the last 10 years, Clemson, on their home field for an extra game. It's just so silly to me. And like, there was nothing that infringed upon the Big Ten and SEC power, and yet they cried their way all the way to the bank, and now they have gotten what they want, which is a straight seeding. And it's like, whatever, I guess, right? Okay, fine, you win. How does this incentivize conference championship games is the next question. For the Big 12 and the ACC, maybe it's not as much. For those smaller conferences, it is still an automatic qualifier. But it just gets a little bit more muddied, and it allows for more of this bias that we see all year long, because now you are going to be essentially ranking the college football playoff the whole season, rather than, hey, these two teams are still in it, or these 3 or 4 or 5 teams are still in it because they have a chance to win their conference championship, and the runners up will still have a pretty good strength of schedule. Like, best believe that with that format last year, SMU was aided by that with how they were ranked throughout the season. Whether you think that's right or wrong, I believe that's true. I think SMU should have been in there anyway. But they were aided by the fact that, oh yeah, if they win the conference title, they will automatically be one of those top 4 seeds. So we don't want them to be ranked 25th right now. I think that absolutely has a part to play in it. So I understand it fundamentally, but again, there was no threat to the Big Ten or the SEC. Those schools that played the 2 AQs that weren't from those conferences, those 2 schools won. Texas won. Penn State won. They both won those games. And another, right? No, that was the quarterfinals. But you know what I mean? Like, they deserved to win those. It's just a bizarre turn of events, I guess. And it is paving the way for the 16-team playoff and the automatic qualifiers from each conference that aren't the conference champions, and whatever, 4 spots for the Big Ten, 4 spots for the SEC. It's just, I don't know. It does kind of stink. How does this affect Baylor? Because Baylor's a team that's going to be eyeing the college football playoff this year with all they bring back. No matter what the rest of the nation thinks, no matter what some of the cynical Baylor fans think, they will have an eye towards that. And I don't know. I love having an on-campus playoff game, so maybe that's for the best for the fans and for college football. I don't understand why the Big Ten and the SEC got their way in this one. They already got their way on the field. Like, it doesn't make any sense. They just want less competition. And this is what it ultimately comes down to, because rankings are completely subjective in a lot of ways. And I know this is the subjective sports of subjective sports, college football. But the playoff was designed to earn it on the field. And the farther we go with it, the less we are doing the earning on the field. We just want the sex appeal of the brands and how much they won by. And because that affects rankings every single week. And now that's going to matter more than winning a conference title. And year after year, we will be faced with ACC and Big 12 teams hoping to be ranked, 8th, hoping to have a home game in the college football playoffs after winning the conference championship. But if you can believe this, the Alabama fans and the Ole Miss fans love this new arrangement. Who would have thunk it? It's just another way to make college football more subjective rather than as objective as so many other sports. And that's what frustrates me about this one. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're coming at you 5 days a week live on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Coming up next, a humongous shakeup in the Big 12 from a football standpoint, but in the worst kind of way, off the field. Let's get you caught up with the Jake Retzlaff BYU news. Let's do it next on Locked On Baylor. First, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Guys, let me ask you a question. You ever look in that bank account and think, wait, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money ain't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop managing your money and you start building wealth. Okay. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan those long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track those shared and personal accounts, set the goals, stay on the same page without the normal stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE, for half off your first year. A story that we don't necessarily like to talk about, and one that obviously is a major off the field issue, but this is unavoidable. This is the biggest news in the Big 12 right now, and it has major on-field ramifications for the rest of the teams in this league, and of course, major off-field ramifications for BYU and for pretty much anyone, to be totally honest with you, because this is a problem going on college campuses all over the country. But the big news out of Provo, a Salt Lake County woman has accused the BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff of sexually assaulting her at his home. It was filed in a civil lawsuit Wednesday, and said she also reported it to the Provo police. And so now BYU has come out with a statement and said from Jake's lawyer that this is false, and they look forward to proving this wrong in court. And they say, he's an upstanding man, and this is a guy that the BYU community, football community, has really rallied around. But this becomes a major, major story in college football and definitely in the world of what we cover in the Big 12. This was a team who has real aspirations to win this conference this year, potentially play in the college football playoff, which they were pretty darn close to last year. And now there is a stunning amount of turmoil around their starting quarterback. And obviously there are some BYU specific codes of conduct that this would really be, that this Jake Retzlaff will really be affected by, whether he is guilty or innocent. But this is, just a horrible story. Unfortunately, this happens around college football all too much. We know that for sure on Locked On Baylor. I saw it as a student when that was all coming down, and it was just horrific, and it was terrible for a program and for a community. Obviously, these schools very similar. I know how this will inevitably, a lot of people will have it come down on the church as a whole, just like they did with Baylor and the Baptist Church. Like, look, guys, we don't know anything about this yet. It's just asinine to sit there and say, oh, well, this is probably a church cover-up thing. We literally have no idea. But I will say the real horrifying part of this, outside of the act itself, the alleged act itself, is the fact that the victim went to Provo police and reported it, and they basically, from her account, tried to talk her out of pressing criminal charges, because the victims of sexual assault don't often get justice. And that's just a bad part of our country right now, that continues to happen, because the way that they are going to get justice is if we continue to persecute the guilty. But it is, of course, innocent until proven guilty. But some big time accusations coming out outside of Provo. And where this falls in the football standpoint, because this is, the sports podcast and it's Baylor, so we got to talk about it from the football standpoint here. This is a massive shakeup in this conference. Even if, some of these details, Jake Retzlaff is proven innocent of, anything non-consensual, any kind of act in that way is falling against the code of conduct at BYU. We saw this with Brandon Davies in that team, 2011 basketball team that looked like it was going to go to the Final Four. He was kicked off the team for having relations, and that could be the same for their starting quarterback, a guy they've really rallied around, one who's maybe not the best statistical quarterback in this conference, but found ways to win a lot of games last year. Found ways to win 11 games, and bringing that leader back, as well as, your starting quarterback, plus with all BYU brings back, this is huge news Like, this is really, really huge. BYU was thinking about a conference championship, potentially a CFP spot. They felt like they were kind of screwed out of one last year, and they brought a lot back. And this kind of thing can derail not just one season, but a couple of seasons, and could open up things in the Big 12 title race, which seems, very, very small and inconsequential when looked at from the 10,000-foot view of what this is. But yeah, it's just horrible accusations, horrible news coming out of this. Horrible that it has to be a civil lawsuit, but this is something we are going to have to keep an eye on, and it's one that can really damage the reputation of a program, of a school, of a coach. Whether justified or not. But we saw all of that happen at Baylor not all that long ago. So I don't know, man. I'm just really hoping justice prevails out of this thing, more so than just football. I know that's our focus here, but let's just make sure we get the facts right and justice prevails in this thing, like truly. But that I mean, we talk about the tiers of the teams in this conference in 2025. Baylor and BYU were both in kind of that top tier, along with teams like Arizona State, Kansas State, with kind of your Texas Techs Iowa State in that top tier, Kansas State and Texas Tech kind of in that next one. Utah, if you're being real optimistic about their turnaround this season, they would kind of be in the next one. But that really, really damages BYU's chances if he is no longer a part of that program, and really opens up. I mean, taking out one of the top horses in this conference, that really opens things up in the Big 12 title race, and it will be something that's neck and neck all year. Baylor does not play BYU this year. They do not. They go back to Provo. I think they're slated to go back there next year. So it won't directly affect Baylor in that sense, in that they would be playing a game against potentially BYU's second string quarterback, but it does definitely affect them in the sense that Baylor's going to be gunning towards a Big 12 championship, or at least being in that Big 12 championship game. And that is one of the thoroughbreds in BYU that could be taking a humongous hit. But anyway, back to this is, we just hope justice prevails here. Like, we saw it far too up close and personal at Baylor. You just hope that the truth is out, no matter what that truth is, so that we can get some justice here. But anyway, it's something, we don't want to talk about it. We got to be really careful with it, but it is the biggest news in the Big 12 right now. Could have some major ramifications for Baylor and some of the other contenders in this conference when it comes to actually playing games on the football field. That said, let's try to segue here. Baylor BYU, fun rivalry. Certainly not in this sense, but when ranking the best college football rivalries in the country, Baylor, do they even have one? Dare I say, do they have two of the best rivalry games in all of college football? Let's talk about that next on Locked On Baylor. A little bit on the lighter side to bring you into your weekend, your Memorial Day weekend. How about that? A little long weekend coming up. Fun stuff, guys. But talking about rivalries in college football. Rivalries in college football is one of the great things that make our sport, right? Like, it's one of those that you really look forward to every year. I have said it on this show plenty of times before. I've argued it for years. Baylor and TCU needs to be played on rivalry week every year. There's no way other people are going to take this rivalry as seriously as our two schools do until you're playing it week 12 of the regular season every single year, right? Bedlam used to do that. Ohio State, Michigan does it. Duke and North Carolina used to do it. I guess they don't do it anymore. Army and Navy do it. Auburn and Alabama do it. I know that rivalry doesn't exactly stack up to those couple that I listed the Armies and Navies of the world and the Auburn and Alabama, the Egg Bowl, the Apple Cup, any of that. But it's a pretty big deal down here for us. And nobody's going to take you seriously until you put it up there. So I saw this list recently. It was the top 50. I want to say the top 50 college football rivalries. And I'm like, it's from Front Porch Sports on Twitter. And I was like, maybe they know ball. Maybe I'll see Baylor and TCU in there. And I start looking like from the bottom, from 50 up to 1. And I couldn't believe it because they know ball. Here is the list on the screen now if you're watching on YouTube. Inside the top 10 at number 7, the Revivalry. They even get the right name. Baylor and TCU. 2 UT rivalries in the top 3. By the way, for whatever it's worth, and I did follow this rivalry quite hard as a kid, the Red River rivalry. Michigan, Ohio State is better. I'm sorry. It just is. And I would argue Auburn, Alabama is better. But Texas OU is pretty good. UT and A&M is great as well. Those are 2 in the top 3. Army, Navy, number 4. Very surprised at number 6. Excuse me, Army, Navy was number 5. At number 6, Catholics versus Convicts, Miami and Notre Dame. That hasn't been a rivalry in a long time. And Catholics versus Convicts was one game in 88. So, and it was rivalry for like 5 or 6 years. Like that's not a real rivalry. They don't play in the same conference or anything. Then you have kind of the Notre Dame USC. You got Farmageddon at number 9, backyard brawl, which unfortunately we don't get enough of anymore. We get it early in the season. That's at number 10. You have to get down to number 12 to get to Bedlam, which I was pretty surprised about. But what I was most surprised about, and by the way, BYU and Utah, the Holy War at 15 probably should be higher. But what I was really surprised about was that when I was going from 50 to 1, I hit another 2 Baylor games before I got to Baylor TCU, because I was surprised to see 2 Baylor matchups on here. I was really surprised to see 3 of them. Number 31, Battle of the Brazos, Baylor and A&M. That one's got plenty of hatred there for sure. And there are definitely Aggies all over the place in Waco. Dare I say there are some Baylor Bears in Bryan College Station as well. A bit one-sided for sure in the football sense of things. It's actually a really good baseball rivalry back in the day. But then you get down to 38 and talk about knowing ball. Like, I know there's not 50 great rivalries in college football. So there are going to be ones that you don't necessarily expect on there. Like LSU and Louisiana Monroe is right behind this one. But number 38 is the Butt Bowl with Baylor and Texas Tech. This is a really interesting rivalry, and it is a rivalry. It's not as much of the pure hatred, I think, that Baylor and TCU have, because we tend to think that Baylor and Tech have common enemies, and we kind of unite on that, even though obviously Baylor and TCU have common enemies as well. But what I think is really cool and unique about that one, the Butt Bowl, is that there's just so much overlap. Like, we've talked about it so many times before. Both of those schools' head coaches right now also coached at the other school. Dave Aranda was a grad assistant at Tech. Joey McGuire was obviously the associate head coach at Baylor, had a huge part to play in some really good Baylor teams. And, I mean, before that, Baylor's best ever football coach came from Tech at one point. That was Art Briles. There's all kinds of overlap. Obviously, about half the staff at Tech is Baylor guys, and like, it just, the list goes on and on. Now you've got a former Baylor guy coaching basketball at Tech, which is big time too, with Grant McCaslin. So I love that we get that on there, man. That is an underappreciated rivalry, really underappreciated. I think Paul Bunyan's axe should be higher. Anything with like a cool name in there. Battle for the Civil War, which I don't think you can call it that anymore. 34, Oregon State. That should be up higher. Right? Iron Skillet. I've noticed a lot of hatred in that one, even though I don't like either of those teams, the SMU, TCU. Utah and BYU should be in the top 10. That is legit hatred from one of the nicest places on the planet, like just personality-wise. That should be higher. I would like to see Georgia Tech maybe a little bit lower, they're at 27, clean, good old-fashioned hate, because Georgia Tech sucks, man. It sucks. Apple Cup is good. It should be higher. But I'm just happy that the Butt Bowl got on there. Battle of the Brazos. I didn't need people to be reminded of that too much. But the Revivalry in the top 10, there will be people that don't know ball that will tell you that Baylor doesn't have a true rivalry game in football. You will come back at them and say, we have two. I'm not counting the Battle of the Brazos anymore. We haven't played in a dozen years, and A&M will always continue to duck us and the rest of the in-state opponents in the bowl games as well. But anyway, what do you think is the best of the rivalry games? Did you think Baylor UT was better than the Battle of the Brazos? Do you think it used to be the Holy War, the Revivalry should be up higher on the list, or should it not get that respect? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We are here every day on YouTube and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. We appreciate it. Appreciate you making it your first listen today and every day. We're also well on the path towards 4,000 subscribers. So if you could help us out, that's completely free to you. Helps us out a ton. Do me just one more favor and enjoy your long weekend. Enjoy the time with loved ones and everything. Have a good Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend. And we will see you on Monday on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.